Hello, welcome to UFO in the Know. We're here to talk about the latest and greatest in the UFO world. Let's talk about what's on everybody's minds right now, and the New Jersey drones, and all these things in our skies flying around that now are catching so many eyes lately and catching the mainstream news. So I'll let you share your opinion first, and I'll just kind of sit back and hear what you have to say
So,
because I don't have a whole lot of thought or opinion on it. I don't feel like I have enough information to collect an educate opinion on what it is. So I'll let you
I feel the same way.
tell me. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that what happened was, all right. So we all remember the spy balloon. We all know the spy balloon came. The government did not know it was up there. NORAD didn't know it was there. Nobody knew it was there. They pretended like they did, but when they got called out on it, what did they start doing? Shooting down UAP, shooting down things in the air. They started publicizing it in the media to make the government look like it's stepping up and doing its role that the American people have it doing. Now, with the war in Ukraine going on, we've seen a lot of drone technology. We've seen a lot of small drones that are dropping grenades, hitting people with explosives. We've seen drone technology that can carry apparently thermite, just gigantic helicopter sized drones that is just dropping fire from the sky, right? We've got all kinds of things that unmanned aerial vehicles can do. And now it's a threat, and the United States is not prepared to deal with that threat. So, what do? They get these reported sightings, and what does the government do? The government's not telling us what they are. The reason the government's not telling us what they are is because they're probably, most people say they have FAA lighting on them. A single drone has shut down an airport. Now it's making the news because the drone thing's a big deal. It wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
fleet of drones just flying over. They don't want to tell us that these are hobbyists. They don't want to tell us that these are people who have drones that are doing building inspections or whatever it may be. They don't want to tell us what it is. It could be the enemy. It could be them testing our anti-drone capabilities, but I doubt it very seriously. I think it's a reason for the government to step up and provide anti-drone technology to the American people without. It's a reason for them to use to be able to employ that, because if it was the enemy, like they probably, if it was an enemy attack, we'd know about it, and they'd be putting out some force. So
Well,
Schumer said they were putting up something to detect drones. Well, I
uh,
don't think we need much to detect drones, but
I had something to say to tag onto that. Where you're going with this was, I what a lot of people speculate is this is an attempt by the government to uh, create laws to regulate these drones, which Schumer, I thought one telling thing he said was these unregulated drones. He mentioned they were unregulated, kind of hinting at maybe he would like to regulate them. So
well,
maybe this is a move, an attempt to create new legislation to regulate drones.
the vocabulary that they use is something that, yeah, you definitely need to pay attention to. So, him saying that, A, drones are regulated. B, we have regulations in place. If you want to fly drones over a certain height, you have to have a license for it. Your drone has to be registered. There are
Yeah,
drones that, hobby
it's the
drones,
same
you can
with
fly.
hobbyist rockets, right? Like hobbyist rockets and
You got to call
the
the
same.
FAA before you launch over. I don't remember, is it 10,000 feet? Probably even lower than that. Really, there's a
Yeah.
certain height requirement that you have to. This is an opportunity. I don't think that the government went out of their way and grabbed a bunch of drones and said, "Get the media out here and watch us fly these drones so we can start some crap." No, I think
Yeah.
what they did was they took hold of scare from the public, and they're utilizing that. So if you watch Schumer's little interview, some guy said, "Well, as the author of the UAP blah 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 Act and the fucking whatever Act, you should know best that." Why aren't we calling them what they are? Because these guys are trying to utilize this opportunity to regulate. You're probably right, and to be able to put
Hmm.
in anti-drone technology and anti-drone measures, which is
Yeah,
not
maybe
technically
police
aimed at.
departments should have it standard. Maybe that's what the
I,
goal is.
I think they should. And, I hate to say that because I think, from my perspective, I could go get a drone, be a hobbyist, and I don't need the cops up in my business. But we've seen in the war in Ukraine that these things can do some serious, serious damage, on a
Yeah,
terrorist level or something like that. We
they were
do
saying they
need.
take off the shelf drones and they have it's a way to rig it up so it'll drop a grenade on somebody.
All
So
you got to do is get a coffee mug and a grenade, and it has to be an off the shelf drone that can support that much weight. But yeah, a grenade's pretty heavy. But you get a coffee mug, you pull the pin, you stick it in a coffee mug, and you just shake the drone in the air. That coffee mug and grenade are going to fall. One's going to fall out of the other, or it's going to break on the ground and it's going to fall out. That spoon's going to come loose, and boom, it's a grenade. And that's how they drop them into, things like that. These are mostly one-time use drones that you see over there. These things don't return usually. I watched another guy on the TV saying, "Well, we see them coming over from Europe." I want to stop anybody who thinks that's actually happening here, and I want you to stop and think about this for a moment. No foreign adversary is going to go offshore and launch drones to come into the United States over 200 miles offshore because that's where they'd have to launch them from, probably. These
mhm.
drones, these helicopter style drones, do not have the battery power. We don't have the solar power to cause them to fly hundreds and hundreds of miles and then return to where they're going. We just don't have that kind of battery technology. It doesn't
No.
exist. We have, if
Mhm.
you want to keep one that's flying in the air, it's different. Winged surfaces can stay up way longer than helicopter style drones. They don't require as much force for lift.
Yeah, they
So
create
China
their
has
own lift.
exactly. China has drones right now that they use on their own people apparently, and they could be using here for all we know. And it would be nice because you look at it from the ground, it looks like a bird. They're big. They look like
I've
a
seen
bird.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and it's scary because the government can use that. The Chinese government could use that too. Any government could use that to get over the top of us and gather intelligence. And
Hmm.
they don't just need intelligence over military bases and installations and things like that. Matter of fact, I honestly think that that's probably less important to them than it is just the daily lives of the American people. You could get
Hmm.
over the top of New York City and find out all the high traffic areas. You could do that over Houston. You go over Los Angeles. You could fly anywhere you want and see whatever you want with one of those. You think of a Predator drone, right? Like those things stay up there, right? They're
Yeah.
too high for you to see. And if you got one that looks like a bird, you're not going to pay any mind to it.
Right. But these
I mean, they
drones we're
look,
seeing now are out there very public. People are seeing
yeah, they got
over their
flashing
houses.
lights
So
on them. I
yeah, they're
mean,
not hiding at all.
exactly. They're not, they're probably non-threatening, more than likely. And then
Hmm.
you go and you look at it from that perspective. If you're the government and this is a panic thing, do you really want to pass up on the opportunity to pass more legislature, especially if you're, uh, a Democrat senator with exceptional ability to use vocabulary that other people, aren't used to listening to you talk? you know, these unregulated drones. Drones are regulated. So is the flying of drones. It's regulated as well. So
Schumer said that. He said
I,
unregulated.
he says a lot of things, and some of it's just frankly not true.
Hmm.
So that's the way the government does that. They'll say things and then it just won't be true. So I don't think they're a threat. We know they're not UAP because they're not a phenomena. First of all,
Hmm.
second of all, they're drones. We know they're drones, and if
Well,
somebody says a drone shut down an airport, it's a big deal, but you know, it's not that big a deal.
hmm. I had a couple comments. I met with the MUFON DC chapter yesterday, and we talked a little bit about it. And they had some senior people from pilots and a guy that was Secret Service, and their opinion was that it was man made. But I've been talking to the leader of the DC chapter, and I pointed out some interesting things I saw online. Now, this granted, this is stuff like I saw online. I'm not going to say this 100% fact, but people are saying that along with these sightings, there's electromagnetic effects. Things are turning off, power's flickering, they're getting weird sounds over the radio, and people are sharing this. And so that is more indicative of a UAP. That would be that's a classic UFO sighting that they can shut off cars, they can shut off anything they want. And so that's what I think makes this a little more interesting, a little more uh, making me I don't know question whether it's man-made or if it's real. Because I've seen a video online too of there's a lot of pictures of them as orbs, these like plasma looking orbs, which people say, oh, that's a lens flare. Well, okay. But I've seen another video of the plasma looking orb morphing into what looks more like a traditional airplane. And somebody speculated, no, this is just ET, like, and he's shown himself, but he's like making themselves trying to look like an airplane. I don't know about that, and this is all hearsay stuff I've seen online, but it does make me more speculative about it that maybe it's not drones. If somebody is flying drones all over people's neighborhoods, that's a huge security risk. Like, of course, people
There's
would be
nothing you can do
concerned
about
about.
it, though. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's nothing. There's nothing you can do about it. I
and the
mean,
White
it's
House's reaction to
illegal.
it, the White House is like squirming in their boots, like over this. Like first they say it's nothing, then they say it's not a threat, but they don't know what it is, and they don't have any pictures of it, and they can't tell you what it is or where it comes from. And then they're saying no, it's just regular airplanes. People are just seeing regular airplanes, but it's clearly not that. It's not just regular airplanes that everyone's mistaking. It's something. So
I think the biggest thing is here to think of, man. All right, so yeah, of course the White House is acting stupid about it because it's another threat that apparently they didn't catch on to. If people are flying drones around the neighborhood, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you they're regulated, but they're unregulated to the point where, like, okay, if somebody's flying one over your backyard, yeah, does that suck? Yes, but I mean, you can't have the government can't come and tell you you can't do that. Even if they did, you're not going to track every little tiny drone flying through neighborhoods and shit like that.
but
You're just
but
not
it's
going to
not a
do it.
tiny drone. It's
You don't
some of
want
them
the
they're the size
government.
of cars. Some of them are huge.
That's what they're saying. Yeah, but if they're that big, they are regulated. They're
Yeah,
regulated or
that's what I'm
registered.
thinking. You
That's
can't
what they're
drive a car
required to
size.
do. It's like gun laws, right? Like you cannot make enough gun laws to make criminals follow them.
Hmm.
Same thing with drones. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, we could sit around and say, well, the cops need all this ability and jurisdiction and stuff like that. I don't
Well,
want
let me
every
stop you
four
there. I
houses.
gotta.
All right. Yeah, no. So what I was getting at is the jurisdiction, right? Like, what we don't want to see is a bunch of Karens, you know, saying, when we don't need these drones flying over our HOAs and, our personal property. And sure, I mean, you own the airspace over your house, I believe, a little bit, but you have the right to privacy. But we don't want to see a drone detection station or a drone interception station or something to detect drones in every neighborhood, everywhere you go. It's going to be detecting remote control cars. It's going to be detecting anything with radio frequency, probably. I just don't. I feel like it's also we want drone protection, but we need to remember that we still need a little bit of liberty too. We don't need the police running down every little Tom, Dick, and Harry and John and Jane playing on their block with some drone they got from Academy Sports. You know what I mean?
Right. So maybe the solution is just give every police officer a drone gun. You've seen these like drone guns
Or
where
like, yeah, like a SWAT car of drone, like how you have a canine officer running around.
yeah,
You got canine officers. Well, let's give some of these guys the capability to shoot, and they have really good drone technology to shoot them down.
yeah,
Uh, it's a gun that shoots a drone that flies into the other drone and knocks it down. I mean, it's a gun that it fires a drone really at a high speed that will go up and knock it down. Problem is that we have new technology with drones that fly at 15,000, 40,000. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
well-funded individuals,
Well,
can
that'd be
have
a
these.
nation. That'd have to be a country that had that, not
No, no,
anyone.
no. Defense contractors, other people. If you have the money, you can own a drone that flies that high. The same way you can own a G5 jet. You can even
Hmm.
own an F-16. I mean, there's a guy in Florida that gives F-16 rides. It's demilitarized. I mean, it doesn't have missiles, but it's an F-16 fighter plane. It's an airplane. There's nothing against it. And our founding fathers knew this in the beginning when they you know gave us the Second Amendment, and they gave we had people who had ships of war, private citizens who had ships of war that could challenge navies and things like that, privateers and stuff like that. That these are so when you look at it from that perspective, anybody can have a drone that goes 50,000 feet in the air and has thermal technology. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. They can detect stuff on the ground. There's all kinds of stuff out there that I'm not a drone hobbyist. I don't know exactly what people have, but I watched an episode of Grand Thumb, and he had a guy out there who had a drone that did that. They're high up enough you can't see them. So obviously, if somebody wanted to fly something over us we couldn't see, a drone the size of a BMW at 50,000 feet, I'm not going to see that.
No. But the
So I
ones
mean,
where everybody's seeing now, it's clear as day. Like the lights, a lot of them have
yeah,
flashing lights, and
yeah, yeah. They're built. Those flashing lights are for safety.
hmm,
So I
right,
mean,
yeah,
I think it's a big media scare, and the government's utilizing it as an opportunity to capitalize on the opportunity to not just regulate. Some people are going to want to regulate. Other people bring up the valid point that we don't have enough anti-drone technology. I mean,
hmm,
that's a very valid point, though, because look at
yeah,
it from a national defense perspective. If somebody, let's just say that the past 4 years, the border has been open, and we have Al Qaeda terrorists in our country, and they have access to drone technology, which is something you can just go buy at Best Buy and get you a pretty decent drone.
right.
Carry a small payload, into you know,
Well,
you
what's the
name it.
biggest drone an individual can own? You can't. Can
Uh,
you can't go to Lockheed and buy their drones, right? And they won't sell to.
Probably not, but I mean, if you had enough money, you probably could. Hang on one second, dog. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Good boy. Stay. It'll click clack all over the house. But yeah, I mean, Lockheed's not going to sell you something that's from military purposes, but that's not the only place that these companies make money from either. If you have, let's say you have $24,000, that could probably buy you a
Hmm.
pretty badass drone. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if you've got the money, I mean, I don't know how much these drones cost. I don't know how much these big expensive ones cost. If they carry any kind of payload on them, they're going to cost a lot of money. But if
I
I
would
can go
imagine
down
like
to,
anywhere
yeah,
from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, probably.
if I can go down to the store and pay $400 and buy a drone that's going to be able to pick up, I mean, let's just use an example: a can of SpaghettiOs. That's about, it's a little bit heavier than a grenade. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And if I could pick that up and it's got that kind of payload, I mean, they're not wasting these. They're not wasting expensive drones in Ukraine. These ones that are flying around with these explosive charges, they're not expensive because they're wasting a lot of them. I mean, they're hitting individual people with them. So
Hmm.
you're looking at drones that cost. What shit? Hang on. We're talking about it right here. I got this off of Timu. Okay,
It's a drone.
Timu. I don't have to
Nice.
register this. I mean, this has zero payload at all. And guess how much I paid for it?
I don't know,
It was
$100.
free.
Free?
Free.
Oh,
Free off of Timu. And I can control it with my cell phone. And it has a
pretty
camera.
sick.
And if I'm on Wi Fi or something nearby, I
I mean,
could
I
stream
had
it
a
on
cheap
my.
little drone one time too. One time
Look at that.
I had a cheap drone. I was driving it around, actually where you're at in Seabrook, Texas, off the coast, and I hit one button. I didn't realize that you hit this button. He does like a loop de loop,
Doesn't flip.
and I did it right over the water, and he did the loop de loop and went right in the water. I was like, shit. So it was, but it was like maybe $40 or 30, $40 or something like that.
That's what I'm saying. You know, you look at that. You can look at it. This, I mean, this thing is free. Now, obviously, you're not strapping any explosives to this and expecting it to go anywhere. It doesn't have that kind of power, but it is free. You know,
Hmm.
so I mean,
So
realistically, it's
I guess
disposable.
takeaway is it looks like politicians are moving in on this as an opportunity to regulate this technology, which seems like this is like the future of warfare now. Is going to be all robotic. You know, first we're gonna have flying things. Eventually, we will have crawling things and moving things that are going to be a robotic warfares. You know, maybe instead of a squad of people, you'll have one dude with like a squad of robots or something that.
The problem is, you got to remember the point of warfare is you have all right. It's the same thing as a fist fight, right? You know, little Johnny said your mother's a whore, and your mother's not a whore, and y'all fight, and if he wins, he's right. And it's the same way with nations, right? So one nation says it's not okay to do this, and another nation says it is, and they don't care. They fight with one another, but just because you destroy everybody's drones doesn't mean you win the war. The whole point of war is to kill the people. Enough
Mm,
attrition so that people will. It's the same thing with the Japanese in World War II. It's like, did we really have to drop the nuclear bombs? Maybe
I
not,
don't think
but
so. No.
at the same time, we did destroy all their aircraft carriers, and they just kept coming. They didn't
Yeah.
stop coming. I mean, nothing we did was going to get them to stop coming. So
Right. They did have that
you can look,
suicidal ideation to. I'll just.
yeah,
I'm gonna.
yeah,
I'm gonna fight till I die, and I'm not gonna come back and
nonstop.
say I didn't fight as hard as I could.
They didn't even stop after we dropped the first bomb. We had to drop two of them before they stopped and surrendered. They didn't surrender after the first bomb. It's not like we dropped them at the same time. So they
Mm.
didn't surrender after the first one. So when you look at it from that perspective, human casualty is still the main objective of war.
Hmm.
So
Well,
these
also
drones,
then that you want to destroy your enemy's warfighting capability. You want to destroy all their factories, their things that are
yeah,
creating their weapons.
yeah, but like I said, we did that to Japan, and they still kept coming. So when
Mm.
you look at it from that perspective, like it's great that we have these things that are going to fight the war for us, but it's bad because if we don't have anything to defend the people from them, the soldiers and stuff, really, because I look at it from the perspective of when I was in Afghanistan, there were times I was afraid of IEDs. Sure, of course you are.
Hmm.
You're driving. I'm driving through a hole where a 500-pound IED just blew up an MRAP. So you look at it from that perspective. You're kind of scared that something's going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. But there were some measures that we had, not a lot. But and you look at drone technology, there's nothing you can do. I've watched videos of people in Ukraine standing there begging for their lives to a drone that still
I've seen that
decided to
too.
crash into them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
deciding to
seen
crash into them.
a North Korean that was like praying. They're just like, okay, I know you're probably gonna kill me, but I'm just gonna do this and show you I give up.
Yeah, but they don't have any room. I mean, they can't take prisoners all the
Oh,
time, unfortunately.
yeah.
A drone definitely can't take a
Yeah, that
prisoner.
seems how the warfare kind of played out. It was just if you're gonna send humans out in the field, you can send drones easily to drop grenades on them and send all the humans back. So it seems like
Yeah, and think
both of the
about this though.
wars fought with the drones, and then the humans just come in and
You
clear out
can't
the rest.
surrender to a drone. You can't surrender to a drone. I mean, I guess you could if it had enough battery life for you to put your hands in the air and walk back to the drone
I
operator.
I think
But
they can because if somebody's pulling the trigger on the grenades and they're watching, and if somebody gives up and but there is the rules of warfare that say, like NATO says, you have to take prisoners, but don't necessarily always do that. They can't necessarily always do it, but I'm sure they've taken some prisoners. And I'm sure some of the Russians are probably just sick of. I think it's probably miserable being in the Russian military. I think they probably a lot of them just
Oh
get
yeah,
sent to their death, so they don't really respect their commander.
I agree with all that. The problem is, like, think about this, right? Drone's coming after you. It's got explosives on it. It sees you and a couple of buddies. You have a couple of options. You have a rifle. You can try to shoot this thing flying through the air. We don't duck hunt with rifles. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to hit this damn drone.
Mm.
Pretty low chances. Or you can give up. You put your weapons down and give up. What's going to happen? That drone is still going to have to blow you up. It can't sit there and stay watching you the whole time while some other crowd of people could come round you up. But they have to
Right.
trust you to give up. So
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty much a kamikaze one way drone. But at that point, it's not
Mm-hmm.
there to take prisoners. So it's brutal, man. I think that we do need drone defenses. I just think we don't need like I said, every HOA president worrying about
Yeah, maybe
banging
it should
down the
be
road
like the
with their
police
Timu
department
drone.
has this capability, and if somebody calls in drone sightings, like New Jersey, the police department should be able to go and use this. I know there's like some that can just interfere with their radio signal, and then it forces them to like land or return home. There's
That may be
that kind of
possible.
thing.
Yeah, that might
So
be possible.
maybe they should have that capability to where they can take a drone down, if one's flying around in the town or something.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that they probably have people who want like drone traffic control. That report to the authorities that you're flying a drone in this area. And then they'll know. They'll say, okay, yeah, no, we hear your report of a drone. This is a authorized operation that's been planned. I guess that could work when you're flying around a Volkswagen sized drone.
Right.
But
If
when
you're
you're
flying
flying
over
around
somebody's
something like
house,
you're flying something like this, I mean, you're already not allowed to fly over populated areas with these kind of drones. You're not supposed to do that, like over a concert or something like that, without
no.
permission, and you got to have. I'm sure there's some regulation on. I know you're not supposed to do it. So
But imagine instead of buy concert tickets, you send in your drone. You have the drone watch the concert, and you just sit back. You got the best view,
the best seat would be from my couch watching it on the television. But yeah, you
right? Nope.
just fly right down there and get in the dude's face as he's singing.
Yeah, like you're just right in front of them watching them. All right. Yeah. Well, that I don't. We still don't know who launched these drones in New Jersey. What is going on? I even saw a drone, video of a drone over the DC Capitol, just sitting there. So what
Yeah,
is
I
that?
mean,
Is that ET showing up? I
I
think
don't
I think it
know.
could be ET. I think it very well could be. I think what it is. So there's this book I've been reading, and people talk about this like galactic confederation of good aliens, right? That are watching over us, and what they want for us is to raise our vibration, and to do that, you have to experience love. Love is the highest vibration of your soul, or whatever you could get it at. So you got to be like all full of love and some loving environment, experiencing love. That's the best way to do it. And you have to have compassion. Like they said, Jesus was one of these higher dimensional beings, and he was trying to tell us how to ascend. And he basically what his message was is you need to treat every other human with compassion, because at this higher frequency, we're all like one organism, and our consciousnesses are all like pieces of a whole. And that's why you shouldn't treat other humans badly. You should treat them how you would like to be treated, because in this higher dimensional level, maybe when after you've died, maybe you experience that where you're joined in with this collective consciousness of humanity. And then they say that it goes even bigger to say the whole universe is like a collective consciousness. And they recognize that they're a part of it, so they don't try to interfere too much, but they do want us, everybody, to observe this, they call the law of one, meaning that we're all one being at some much higher level. And so they try to make sure that that is being followed. But they say there's also bad aliens, and the bad aliens, they're from the Orion star constellation. They don't say much about them, but they say that they are trying to control us, and they had world leaders are really these bad aliens in disguise. They said this is all stuff that people have channeled from an alien intelligence. They said this is in the 70s. A channeling group did this. And so people are saying that these sightings are the Galactic Federation showing up and saying, okay, uh, we know what you're doing. You need to stop. You need to let everybody know that there's really aliens because they've been like trying to keep us in this like bubble where we don't know about it, what's going on. So they're trying to awaken our minds to show us, yes, there are uh, higher dimensional life forms than yourselves, and we have better technology. We have all this amazing technology, and this is what you could be capable of if you be good, essentially, be a better species.
Okay. I mean, that's all a little bit strange, but yeah, the reason I think it's strange is because if there really is aliens out there that want us to do that, then why don't they just come down here and tell us to do that?
They said they tried, and they tried it during the Egyptian times, and they showed themselves, and they said the people worshipped them, and then they started killing each other and trying to use their say I'm connected with this higher being, so I'm the ruler, and so the humans weren't they're too primitive. They would end up killing each other and trying to rule each other and gain power over each other, and use this. They worshipped them, but then they, you know, just like people kind of abuse religion now and say, well, you know, I am the arbiter of this higher dimensional's will, so you need to listen to me, and I'm in power.
Oh, I believe that the Pope would fall into that category. I'm not a big I'm not big into Catholicism because I don't think you should be able to excommunicate anybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
They
same
claim
thing.
themselves as the arbiter between God and us, and the
Yeah,
Pope is somehow highly connected to the God than us, and he can uh, basically make carry out God's will on Earth. So we should do what he says.
I agree. I agree with all of that. But man, I got to wrap it up. I have to go to the gym and I got to get underway for tomorrow. I got to leave here. I don't know what time I need to leave here tomorrow, but I got to leave early, so I got to wrap it
All right.
up.
All right. All right. I won't keep you too late. This is a good discussion. This is our discussion over the New Jersey drones. Ultimately, in conclusion, I think we don't know who launched them. It does appear, though, that politicians are moving on this momentum towards what's happening to try to create legislation around drones, which seems like it makes sense as long as it's not abused. Then that would make a lot of sense with our current technology. I won't keep Hobbs. He's got to go back, voyage out to sea to carry out his deadly missions. So I'll
Yeah.
talk to you later. And signing
All right.
off, UFO in the know. Thank you for tuning in, whoever stayed and listened to the whole thing. Good night.
Later, dudes.